This is 47 Mason 47 with a review today that was requested by a lot of people. This is for the ISSC M22 22 caliber Glock clone handgun. I've had several people ask about this. I've owned it for a couple of months now. Overall, I'm really happy with it. Anyway, though, to start off with, we'll go over what you get, and then we'll move into some more aspects of the weapon itself. So when you purchase this weapon, you'll notice it comes in this rather large plastic hard case, which is, I mean, it's not bad. It feels a little cheap. It's large. Just for comparison, this is the case my Glock 21 came in. This is the M22. You can see it's actually larger than the Glock hard case, which I'm not really sure why it's so large. It's pretty thick too, but you know, it's free, whatever. When you open it up, it's got some nice thick foam padding in there. This is where the manual and stuff will be. It's kind of behind this little foam flap. But it comes with, of course, the manual, a test casing. I think mine actually has two in there. And if you get the threaded version, you'll have this little thread protector, similar to the Walther P22, installed on the barrel already. Of course, mine is off because I have the 1/2x28 thread adapter on it. But you'll get that, and then you'll get this little wrench for removing that thread adapter, so you can install, or the thread protector, so you can install a thread adapter. And you also get this little tool kit that has this. To be honest, I'm not even sure what that goes to. This is used for disabling the safety or enabling the safety on the trigger. You can kind of see, there it goes in that little slot to turn that off, on or off. And the weapon itself will be covered in a plastic bag that's got oil kind of inside of it, pretty heavy amount of oil. When I first got mine, the whole weapon was pretty liberally coated with it. I took a couple of paper towels to wipe all of that off before it wouldn't, leave my hands kind of feeling greasy. And then you get one magazine, which, again, that's not my favorite. I like for a weapon to come with two, but yeah, I mean, if you want this, you'll just have to deal with that. Moving on to some of the features of the weapon itself, as you can see, unlike a Glock, it has a safety up here, which is ambidextrous. Use it from either side. It's also a decocker, so if you have the safety off, this is unloaded. I can get it turned around so you can see. If you have the safety off and you've got the hammer back, and you can't pull the trigger if the magazine is in. That's another safety feature that they have. But instead of having to pull the trigger and let the hammer down, if you want to, you can just flip the safety on. You do want to hold that though, like hold this back pretty firmly, because this safety is, I mean, as you can see, it's not especially difficult to manipulate. So it has come off a couple of times when I didn't want it to, but and the weapon wasn't loaded at the time. It's just kind of, if you're handling it or someone else is handling it, that's something to keep in mind, because all it takes is just barely brush that with your thumb and it'll come right off. And all it has to do is barely be showing that little red dot and the safety is off. It doesn't have to be all the way up in the forward position. But it has an adjustable rear sight. See that it adjusts with this little screw here on the side that may actually no, I don't think that's what that little tool is for. The front sight is supposed to be replaceable, and I believe it's supposed to come with 3 of them. However, mine only came with 1, which is fairly disappointing. This one seems to be right on at around 20 yards or so, so I mean, at least I don't have to go out and buy one right off the bat. But if it's supposed to come with it and it doesn't, that's always kind of a letdown. Again, the adjustable rear sight is something that most Glocks don't have. that this does. It also has a little loaded chamber indicator. If you have a round in there, you can just kind of look down and you can see if it's loaded or not. The slide release is a little bit different than a Glock. You can see it's similar in shape, but it feels different and it sticks out kind of more like the factory Glock extended slide release does. Okay, so again, as you can see, this looks very similar to say a Glock 19. It's right about the same in size. Here I have a Gen 3 Glock 19, and then here's the ISSC. You see they're pretty similar in width. As far as like the grip size and everything, they're very close to being the same. Of course, this being a 9mm, it is just a hair thicker. It's barely enough to notice. I don't know if you can even really see that, but there's just a little bit of difference in the thickness. This one is the post-lawsuit model. I'm not sure how many of you are aware, but ISSC was sued by Glock for their initial design because it was so similar, much like what happened with the H&K and the GSG-5 debacle that went down. But on this new one, they added these front serrations, which I don't know. I guess some people use those, but to me, they're just more for looks. The grip looks different. Instead of having the Glock-like texture, you have this kind of it's just a slightly different pattern. And then the finger grooves are not so much grooves as there's just sort of mounds built up right here, which it works fine. I mean, it's comfortable to hold and shoot. The major complaint that I have is this trigger. I don't know if that'll focus in there, but this trigger has kind of grooves. I don't think that's going to focus on that, but the trigger has grooves on it, similar to the early 3rd Gen Glock 19, or well, any early third Gen Glock, instead of having the smooth one that the more recent 3rd Gen Glocks have. And then it has the same little section there, the safe action. This one, however, the inside, where that little small piece folds into, is kind of sharp. I took a file and worked on that just a little bit, and it still, it actually hurts a little bit. That's probably my biggest complaint about this weapon in general. If you shoot it a little bit, after a while, maybe 30 rounds or so, you do start feeling a little bit of that bite from just the very tip of that trigger. It almost feels like it's cutting into your finger. It does have the rail with 3 slots. I'm not sure if this is a standard Picatinny or if it's the Glock size rail to accept their lights and whatnot. But the main size of the frame is the same. This is a Glock Don Hume holster. This fits perfectly snug in there, so I would assume that this is probably the same width. So if you had a Glock, one of their series of flashlight laser combo deals, that should work on here just fine if you wanted to use that. Or if you're like me and you have several holsters for your Glock 19 or 17, this fits perfectly in there. It locks up nice and tight. It's not any bigger, so it won't wear your holster out. But that's just a benefit if you're out at the range or if you want to carry it camping or something. Being able to use the same holster is always nice. Here's a closer look at the magazine. It's got this little button here that you can use so that you can load the magazine easier. It holds 10 rounds. This little piece on the top is what deactivates the magazine safety when it's inserted into the weapon, and the safety up here is off. You can pull the trigger. You heard it click a little bit there where that hammer wasn't all the way forward, but as soon as you take the magazine out, the trigger won't move. You get a nice feel for the bite that trigger has if you pull it without the magazine in there. Another complaint that I have is this thread adapter. It's expensive for one. I think it was close to $40, and then it seems like it holds your accessories excessively far from the barrel. It just adds too much length in general. As you can see, there's a good 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch right there. I know the P22 adapters, they're a little bit closer to the barrel, which I'd like better. I'm not sure if the P22 adapter fits this weapon or not. I'm going to pick one of those up just to try it, and I'll update the description or just post a little annotation on this video once I find that out. To break it down, it's again similar but not exactly like a Glock. You want to take the magazine out, then on mine you have to remove this little thread protector. Then you pull this little lever down similar to a Glock. Then you pull that slide all the way back, and then it will just slide forward off of the weapon. You can see the inside, even the frame and whatnot. It looks very similar to a Glock, and it comes lubricated with some kind of thick oil or grease. I'm not really sure. I haven't cleaned that out. The weapon functions fine as it is, and I haven't shot it enough to really merit cleaning yet. And you do have to pull this back down again when you want to reinstall the slide on the weapon. As far as shooting this weapon and its accuracy, it's a lot of fun to shoot other than that little small bite that the trigger has, especially if you've got a suppressor. It's very quiet. The sights line up much like a Glock. You can see it's got that same little U-shaped wide area, and then it's a square dot instead of round on the front sight. But yeah, it's similar to a Glock. So if you're used to a Glock, you pick this up and just muscle memory, you'll be able to hit what you're aiming at. I haven't done really any paper punching with this. I've mostly taken it out and shot soda cans and that kind of thing. But I can say from 20 yards, 25 yards, you can easily keep 10 rounds inside of a pine cone. Pine cones around here, smaller than my fist, so I mean, that's, minute of squirrel at 25 yards is fine for the purpose. I mostly bought this as a cheap training for shooting my Glocks. 22 ammo is still a whole lot less expensive than 9mm. One thing that I have noticed shooting this, it loves CCI mini mags, and it will eat either the round nose or the hollow points in those. But certain hollow points, Winchester Super X, which those suck anyway, hardly any 22 will feed those, but Super X won't work in this. Remington seems to be kind of hit or miss, but I only have about 200 rounds through it. It's not really even broken in yet, so that may get better as the spring breaks in. But right now, mostly what I'm getting is the round kind of hanging up on the bolt face, right up there at the top of the bolt, or not the bolt face, the breech of the barrel there. Whenever the round is trying to chamber, it'll hit the top of that, and then the lead will just kind of mar up, and the round won't feed. Then you can pull this back and then just kind of push it down, and then let it go, and it'll shoot fine. But maybe 1 out of every 3 rounds, if you're using Super X, you can pretty much expect it to be effectively a bolt action, because you'll fire once, have to rack the slide, manually put the round into the chamber, close the slide to use those. So I'd recommend just steering clear of that. I'd recommend steering clear of Super X for any 22 actually. That garbage won't even feed in my bolt actions. So ultimately, would I recommend this over the Walther P22? Well, no. If you're a big Glock fan like myself, I've got several Glocks, that's pretty much the only handgun I shoot, then would I recommend this? Absolutely. If you like Glocks, if you're used to shooting a Glock, this is the 22 of choice. About the only thing closer that you're going to get is actually putting a 22 conversion on one of your Glocks. But if you're not a big Glock fan, if you're just looking for a fun 22 to plink around with or to suppress or even to carry, whatever it may be, overall I'd say go P22. The trigger is better. The P22 is a little bit smaller. Of course, there's more accessories available for it, and the design's just been around longer. I know the first generation, the pre-lawsuit M22s, were notorious for jamming, being basically really unreliable. I haven't had a single jam that's not ammo related with this one, so I think they've worked that out, but still, it's a young design. More problems may spring up. I know some of the P22 frame cracking issues didn't start showing up until they were higher in the round count. That could be an issue, but I kind of doubt it. This pistol seems to be more heavily made than the P22, part of it being a little bulkier. It is very well made, and there's no wobble. I mean, it feels very well made. It doesn't feel like a cheap toy or anything. But overall, I'd still say go with the P22 unless you're just a big Glock fan. If you stuck with me this far, I appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. I know it's a fairly lengthy review, but I wanted to go into as much detail as I could since so many people had asked about this particular weapon. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment or send me a personal message. If you're interested, as soon as this section of the video is over, I'll post kind of a close-up similar to what I did with the nickel boron M16 group using my other camera, so you can just get a closer look at the weapon. Won't be any talking or anything, it'll just be images.